Behind the commanding presence and political brilliance of President Lyndon B. Johnson lay a personal life rife with secrets, particularly a series of extramarital affairs that unfolded alongside his political ascendancy. These affairs, some long-term and emotionally significant, others fleeting and speculative, have become an integral, albeit controversial, chapter of his legacy. Among the most enduring and influential of these relationships was his affair with Alice Glass, a prominent Texas socialite and wife of a powerful newspaper publisher. Their relationship began in the late 1930s, during Johnson's early congressional career, and endured for over 25 years. Far more than a mere romantic entanglement, Glass became a behind-the-scenes advisor, offering political insight and emotional support. Biographer Robert Caro highlights how deeply Johnson valued her opinions, consulting her on major decisions and relying on her not just for companionship, but for the kind of political guidance typically reserved for trusted aides. Despite the longevity of their liaison, Glass eventually ended the relationship in frustration over Johnson's refusal to leave his wife, Lady Bird, a woman who remained publicly supportive even as rumors swirled. Glass later married another man and distanced herself from Washington politics, but the imprint she left on Johnson's world remained undeniable. While the affair with Alice Glass was Johnson's most documented and influential relationship outside of his marriage, other women also figured prominently in stories of his romantic escapades. One of the most sensational and publicly contested claims came from Madeline Duncan Brown, a Texas businesswoman who, in 1982, stepped into the spotlight with explosive allegations. Brown claimed she and Johnson had shared an affair that spanned nearly 20 years, beginning in 1948, and that their secret relationship had produced a son, Stephen Mark Brown, in 1950. She asserted that Johnson arranged financial support for the child through intermediaries, maintaining secrecy to protect his public image. Another rumored affair linked Johnson to Helen Gahagan Douglas, a congresswoman and one of the few women to rise to national prominence in the mid-20th century. Their alleged relationship, occurring during the 1940s and early 1950s, was reportedly an open secret in Washington. He famously once bragged to a group of reporters that he had more women by accident than Kennedy had on purpose, a crude reference to his predecessor's own well-known affairs. Whether this was bravado or confession remains debated, but it underscores the persona Johnson cultivated: dominant, unapologetic, and fueled by a desire for control in all aspects of life, including his romantic pursuits. The affairs of Lyndon B. Johnson have long remained a subject of historical curiosity, but their impact goes beyond scandal and gossip. His relationships with women like Alice Glass and potentially Helen Douglas weren't just romantic. They were occasionally advisors, confidants, and mirrors reflecting Johnson's inner turmoil. Some historians argue that his complex personal life sheds light on the contradictions that defined his presidency: his simultaneous championing of civil rights and escalation of the Vietnam War, his deep empathy for the poor and abrasive treatment of subordinates, his deep craving for affection and aggressive drive for power. Lyndon B. Johnson's extramarital entanglements weren't just rumors floating in the wind. They were known, tolerated, and even facilitated by some within his inner circle. In some instances, reporters who were aware of his affairs chose not to publish stories, either out of respect for his office or due to the prevailing political culture where exposing a politician's infidelities was frowned upon unless it had direct implications on policy. But within political circles, from Capitol Hill cocktail parties to smoky Texas fundraisers, Johnson's reputation as a womanizer was no secret. Female staffers often spoke in hushed tones about his suggestive comments and boundary-pushing behavior. As such, Johnson's secret affairs were protected not just by secrecy, but by an entire ecosystem that enabled and normalized his conduct behind closed doors.